Hi, it's Comic Artist Pro Secrets, and I'm Ethan Van Sciver. This is a momentous day. What a crazy day this has been so far. Got some news about Rainbow Bright. It's really funny. It's a small world, it really is. And then also, a good friend of the show, a fellow named Tom, happened to have this in his collection. And this is the long lost issue of CYBERFROG. This book right here, I think maybe 400 copies were made of this. This is an ash can sized book called Amphibionics #1. It's very inexpensively put together. It's not very well produced. I mean, this cover was actually the poster that we put out. You flip it over to the back cover, it's just a close-up of the poster again. I mean, you know, this was basically Harris Comics saying, hey, we're going to hang on to the license for CYBERFROG, the rights to the character for another 2 years. So we just need to put out a book. And I had done 2 issues for them just before I left to go work at DC, and they released them. They staggered them by 2 years so that they could. I think the license, the deal said that as long as they produced one comic book every 2 years, they could hang on to the rights for another 2 years. So they took these 2 comics and they staggered them, and this one came out in 1999, and then the last one that was called Suck, the mosquito, alien mosquito one that I read to you guys, that came out in 2001. So basically they held on to CYBERFROG until 2003, and it was, was it a slimy thing to do? Well, it was CYBERFROG. So in any case, I do have the rights again. They mailed me about 50 copies of the maybe 400 print run that they did of this. I don't know where those went. I must have tried to sell them at a couple of conventions. This was back in 1999. You can see I signed this copy. I wasn't doing very many conventions or appearances in 1999, so it's very strange how this got out and with my signature on it. Somebody must have met me at a con, or did I eBay them? I don't even know. But in any case, these are so scarce, so hard to find, and so when I put the call out, I was not expecting to find this, and I did find one. And thank you so much, Tom. I read this book. It is the best issue of CYBERFROG that there ever was, but it's also nasty, brutish, it's rude, it's cruel. Here's the toy design, actually, and we've seen the toy, but here's the original toy design that they put in here. I haven't seen this for years. I haven't seen any of this book since 1999, so I sat down and kind of poked through it and was like, oh my God. Here's the original cover. This should have been on the front here, but they didn't want to, I think they didn't want to put out 4 colors. So they just put the black and white cover in here. I mean, this was done very cheaply. They didn't want to spend any money on it that they didn't have to. So the black and white art is here. Here's CYBERFROG, and here's Heather. And CYBERFROG has a nun, a dead nun, attached to him. And we'll find out why. I mean, it's a startling image. We don't know why he's got a nun on his shoulder fins here. And by the way, his shoulder fins are way too big. Like, they shouldn't be sticking out that far. That's ridiculous. I can't. It's so dumb. All right. So anyway, this gentleman is freaking out, and he's yelling at a bunch of nuns. He's basically confronting them. He feels he's got a lot of resentment from his childhood. They used to discipline him by whacking his knuckles with a ruler when he was bad. I don't know if these are the same nuns, but they are nuns, and so maybe he's just taking it out on them. And he's like, I asked you to stop doing it, and you never stopped doing it. And now, 20 years later, look at my hands. Ah! So he's got a severe case of arthritis. He blames it on the nuns, and he's menacing the nuns. And CYBERFROG calls him Blimpy and tells him to back away from those nuns. And he, of course, attacks CYBERFROG. He has no problem with CYBERFROG, which is strange. I mean, you would think that if you saw him, you would be like, oh, what the? Ooh. But no, he goes right for him. And he's saying it's the nun's fault that his hands look like this. And this nun here says, well, if this young man had his knuckles wrapped that often, he must have been a very bad boy. And that is enough. CYBERFROG's like, oh no. CyberFrog's trying to de-escalate. You always want to de-escalate a violent situation if you can. De-escalate. I mean, those are the rules for self-defense. If you can de-escalate a situation, you need to do it. This nun, she's like an old woman, it's like she just blew it up. She's like, I'm not putting up with, look, I'm 80 years old. You think I'm going to put up with your nonsense? You must have been a bad kid. And he's like, that's it. And that's what prompts him to turn into a werebear. Now, the thing about CyberFrog comics is that when I was doing them, I dimly had an idea of the story, but not really, and I just kind of made it up as I went along. So, of course, this guy is a werebear, and he's going to attack the nuns, and CyberFrog's like, all right, get behind me, sisters. And they're like, they're not normal nuns either. They are the Sisters of Mayhem. They turn into bats, bats, and CyberFrog is just, look how, he's getting better. The way I'm drawing CyberFrog is getting cleaner, more consistent. So nothing surprises him, and he just gives the werebear a nice swift kick up the face. Pretty good. And he punches the bear right in the tummy. And then look at the bear, he's cute. CyberFrog sits on his head and he says, come on, deep breaths, let's go. And then he's going to just try to break his neck and end this. And this is all, this is the best drawn CyberFrog comic that exists. I think this is actually better than the mosquito one. Of course, everything that kind of came before this was nonsense. I really don't like any of the drawings in most of the other books, but yeah, I don't know. This is right about as good as it was going to get for the time period. Anyway, so the werebear, he starts throwing the bat nuns at CyberFrog, who's dodging them, and he thinks it's kind of fun. He gets clawed by one of the bat nuns, and that distracts him enough to whip around, and then one of the bat nuns gets impaled on his shoulder fins, and this does not make him happy. It wouldn't make you happy either. And he looks at us, and he looks at the nun, and he looks back at us, and he says the plot thickens, but the nun is turning back into a nun again. So now he's got this human nun on his shoulders, and that's a distraction. So the bear is going to sneak up behind him and finish CyberFrog off. CyberFrog is now completely, what's the word I'm looking for when you're stuck on something and you are distracted? Do you know what I'm talking about, babe? No. Okay. He's distracted. One of you guys will know, and you'll put the word in there. But yeah, he's distracted by the nun. And then the bear's about to kill him, and all of a sudden the tail whips the bear right across the back and pushes him away from CyberFrog. CyberFrog is talking about how he got all dressed up for a night out and he spilled something on himself, and that's terrible. He's not paying attention to Salamandroid, who just shows up monstrously huge behind CyberFrog's back. And, the bear is now like, uh-oh. The bear was really big compared to CyberFrog, who's only about 5 feet tall, but compared to Salamandroid, give me a break. Salamandroid just punches him into the earth. You see his little bear paw. He's like, die. I didn't even realize I drew this much Salamandroid material. He's in this. So I guess he would be. It's called Amphibionics, so they're both going to be in this. CyberFrog's like, get off, and he's trying to push the nun off his shoulder. And in the meantime, the werebear is slammed into the ground. You can see CyberFrog's still thinking. He's like, she won't budge. He's trying to figure it out. Salamandroid walks back to this Mack truck that looks like Optimus Prime back here. And, he grabs a telephone pole, and he tries to cram the bear even further into the ground. CyberFrog is still thinking about what to do. And that's when Salamandroid picks up the Mack truck over his head and smashes the Mack truck. He volts the Mack truck into what's left of the werebear. And CyberFrog is still trying to figure things out, still is unaware of Salamandroid's presence behind him. And then the entire truck explodes. We assume at this point that the werebear is dead. I think his name was Grizzly. He is dead, but CyberFrog, yeah, he's just like, that's weird. Where'd everybody go? And he takes off with the nun on his shoulder. He's got to go home. Meanwhile, this is basic high school. This is where Heather Swain goes to school. And it says here, basic high school, home of the Fighting Cannibals. That's a reference to, I think, Ben Riley, who is Deathfly, who also goes to this high school. She's an 18-year-old. She's a senior. She's getting ready to graduate. Looks like somebody, Yoshi gave her this puppy. Yoshi became Dragonfly. So Yoshi is actually one of Ben Riley's proteges, and Heather has really bad luck with men. I don't know why he gave her this stuffed dog. What does it say here? It says something on the tag. Heather, thinking of you, Yoshi. Okay, so that's nice. She's walking around with this girl here, this little goth girl who is Dystopia. Everyone has an alter ego. Everyone is evil around Heather. Heather is oblivious to it all. And that is the thing. And Heather, as they're walking underneath this tree, Heather notices that CYBERFROG is up in the tree with the nun hanging off of his shoulder, and he needs her help. And she thinks it's disgusting, but all right, let's go. Heather's helpful. She's going to help CYBERFROG. And now we cut to this cartoon strip. CYBERFROG and Heather in Old Habits Die Hard. CYBERFROG, nothing was proven. Nobody cared. And Heather winks at you and says, we love you. Now here we go. We got a little strip. This is them efforting to get the nun off of CYBERFROG's shoulder. We pull on it. It doesn't work. She used all her strength. She goes over here and pulls out a whole stack of dynamite and TNT. CYBERFROG is slightly alarmed by this idea, but she's like, no, trust me, it'll work. And he's like, okay. Boom. And all it did was kind of blacken CYBERFROG into a cinder, like in a Bugs Bunny cartoon. She kicks the dynamite away. Maybe that was a bad idea, and he gives her the OK symbol. That's, the OK symbol. And Heather says, we got to do something. And CYBERFROG finally just loses his cool and flips out at her, throws a temper tantrum, and she lets him cool off and then scolds him. You knock it off. You came to me for help. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So they think. Heather has an idea. She leaves. CYBERFROG's waiting for her, tapping his foot. She comes back with a chainsaw. And at least we can chainsaw the most of her off. So that's what she does. Eureka. How fun. And then that's when she notices that symbol, that stupid Ben Riley symbol, is on her palm. It's on the nun's palm. So basically, Deathfly is responsible for the Sisters of Mayhem. And here they are, hours later in an alley. There's an alleyway where they have a couch and they just sit there. And, he says, well, we could name the severed head, And she said, so now you're giving up. I wish you'd given up 2 hours ago. I could have gone home and watched Seinfeld. CYBERFROG says, I'm funnier than that guy. And she says, yeah, I'm laughing myself sick. You're hilarious. And Heather's got a bruise on her, and that's from her stepfather, as we find out next issue. He is abusive. But, right now, she's keeping that to herself. She has an idea. They go to the chicken shack. CYBERFROG loves fried chicken. So do I. I love fried chicken. It's my favorite fast food. So Heather works there part-time, and she lets herself in and makes him lots of greasy fried chicken. And that's when she gets the idea. Hey, yeah, look, my class ring came off because of the grease on the chicken. That's disgusting. Actually, it was Yoshi's class ring, so that's the boy she's dating. And then she says, hey, does it give you any ideas? And he's like, more chicken? No, come with me. Into the back room. I used to work at a Roy Rogers, and they had these big Fry-O-Matic tanks full of grease that you have to heat up, but she wants him to get in to the grease. Now, you'd think she's going to fry CYBERFROG, but she's not. She's just going to put cold grease in there, and then boom, the head slides right off. Genius. Absolute genius. But the next day, of course, there's a problem. They left the severed head in the... So this restaurant's going to get shut down. I'm pretty sure you don't pull up fried chicken and you've got a were-bat severed nun head in the chicken basket that's been deep fried. It actually looks delicious. And then here's the ad for the next episode. Suck. Yeah, so this was a extremely cruel, very nasty, over-the-top issue of CYBERFROG, but it's also the best drawn, and at least there's kind of a story there, even though the story's dumb. So this is the best story, I think, of CYBERFROG that's ever been. This is a nice pinup from Andy Park, and it's actually one of the better CYBERFROG pinups by another artist that I got. I really like this. There's his tongue sticking out there. And yeah, here's the other side. Is this a completely different drawing? Yes, it is. This is the other side of the action figure, as it were. And nothing else, no bonus features or anything. We've got another just, black and white shot of the cover. And there it is. I mean, this was the missing link. This is the one CyberFrog story that I had not seen since the 1990s. I missed it so. I laughed. There are a couple of moments in this book that I thought were pretty funny, if I do say so myself. But most of all, it's just, I think I did this book, I was like 23 or 24. I think I was just trying to make people go, ew, why? And me just go, I don't know, because I can. That's what comic books are all about. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as you're, publishing it yourself, and you're in control. You can tell whatever kind of stupid stories that you want. Talking about, CyberFrog today. What would I do with CyberFrog today? Nothing like this. I think I would actually. Here's the thing about working at DC Comics over the past 20 years is that you really learn how to write, how to define a hero. And CyberFrog was in no way a hero. I mean, he just wasn't. This was the 90s when all of the characters that you read about in comic books were just over the top, violent and cruel, sadists, sociopaths. And CyberFrog was no better. I mean, he was no different, and well, he was different, but he was no better. He behaved selfishly. He behaved with cruelty. His jokes were stupid. I mean, it's like it really is like a really bad Deadpool, Spider-Man kind of comic book from that time period. So now, what would CyberFrog be? Well, he'd be a hero. Hopefully he would be funny, but or just charming. But he would be he'd be more heroic and caring about the people that he loved, and then just everyone in general. So a few lessons that you learn working at DC Comics is that their characters must always behave like heroes, and if they don't, then you break them. And those lessons kind of stayed with me. So anyway, thank you, Tom, for digging this out and sending it my way. I do appreciate it. I'm going to draw you a CyberFrog and send it over. And I don't know, we could do that now. We'll do a separate video. Anyway, thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye. It's no secret at all that I couldn't do this channel if it wasn't for support from you, my subscriber base, and my Patreon donors. If you'd like to join this community by pledging $1 or more per month, go check out the link in the description below. And I thank you.